When my husband shouted in the courtroom, "That child isn't mine!" I smiled and nodded to my lawyer. He had no idea I'd known the truth for 3 months. My name is Sarah Johnson, and I thought I knew my husband. 5 years of marriage in Denver, Colorado, and I was convinced Michael was the man of my dreams. Tall, charismatic, a sales manager with a disarming smile who swept me off my feet at a corporate party in 2019. But sometimes, people only show their true colors when they think they can get away with it. It all started with little Emma, our 3-year-old daughter, fair-skinned with my green eyes and Michael's brown hair, or so I always thought. She was our joy, our little miracle after 2 years of trying to conceive. The first cracks in our marriage appeared last fall. Michael started working late, often coming home smelling of unfamiliar perfume. When I asked, he brushed it off. "Just a new air freshener at the office, Sarah." But I'm not naive. 12 years as a nurse in a Denver hospital taught me to read people, to notice details others miss. The breaking point came on January 15th this year. I picked up Emma from daycare and stopped by the grocery store. There, I saw Michael with a woman I didn't recognize. Red-haired, slender, clearly younger than me. They were laughing by the ice cream aisle, his hand holding hers as tenderly as he once held mine. My heart stopped. Not because of the affair, I'd already suspected. It stopped because of what I heard next. "I'll be free soon," he told her, stroking her hand. "Once I prove the kid isn't mine, I can leave her without paying alimony." She giggled. "You sure it'll work?" "Of course. Look at her." He pulled out a photo of Emma on his phone. "She's too fair. Sarah and I are both darker. Any court will believe she cheated." I stood behind the cereal aisle, gripping Emma's hand so tightly she whimpered. My husband was planning to abandon us, using our daughter's appearance as a weapon. He was going to publicly shame me, call me a cheater, and walk away clean. But Michael didn't know one thing. Emma wasn't his daughter. You see, 5 years ago, Michael and I went through fertility treatments. Months of trying led nowhere. Doctors told us Michael had a low sperm count, but he refused to accept it. He insisted the problem was me. After a particularly humiliating doctor's visit, where Michael yelled at me in front of the entire clinic, accusing me of being broken, I made a decision. I knew a sperm donor, Dr. David Clark, a colleague from the hospital. Blonde, green-eyed, a kind man who offered to help anonymously. Michael never knew. He thought Emma was the result of a miracle, as he loved to tell friends, and I let him believe it because I saw how he loved our daughter. Or so I thought. Turns out, his love was conditional. That night, after the grocery store, I lay in bed next to my snoring husband who was clutching his pillow. I planned. If he wanted to play dirty, I was ready to play smarter. The next day, I went to a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Rebecca Stone, Denver's best family attorney. A shark with a reputation for never losing a divorce case. "Tell me everything," she said as I sat in her office, overlooking the mountains. I told her about Michael's affair, his plan, what I'd overheard, but I didn't yet mention that Emma wasn't his daughter. "We have options," Rebecca said, tapping her pen on the desk. "We could hire a private investigator, gather evidence of his affair." "No," I interrupted. "I want him to file for divorce first. I want him to publicly accuse me of cheating. I want him to demand a DNA test." She raised an eyebrow. "That's risky, Sarah. If the test shows he's not the father, trust me, I said. I have a plan. The next 2 months were the hardest of my life. I had to play the oblivious wife while Michael grew colder and crueler. He started nitpicking everything: how I cooked, how I cleaned, how I raised Emma. "She doesn't even look like me," he said one night at dinner, staring at our daughter with disdain. "Wonder who she takes after." Emma, an innocent 3-year-old, didn't understand the subtext. She just smiled and said, "I look like a princess." I saw something cold flash in Michael's eyes. He was already distancing himself emotionally, preparing for the day he could reject her completely. In late March, he finally made his move. I came home from work to find him in the living room with papers in hand. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, not even looking up. "About what?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "I'm filing for divorce." He finally met my eyes, and there was no regret or sadness, just cold determination. "And I'm demanding a DNA test for Emma." I feigned shock. "What? Michael, what are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb." He stood, squaring his shoulders. "I know you cheated. Emma's too fair to be my daughter. I'm not paying alimony for someone else's kid." I let tears well up in my eyes. "How could you say that? She's your daughter." "We'll see about that," he said with a smug smile. "A DNA test will prove it." He didn't know I'd secretly recorded that conversation on my phone. The next weeks were a whirlwind of legal documents and preparation. Michael hired his own lawyer, a pompous man named Richard Black, known for playing dirty. They planned to paint me as an unfaithful wife trying to trap an honest man into raising another man's child. They didn't know how right they were. During preparation, I told Rebecca the full truth about Emma's conception. Her eyes widened as she realized the brilliance of my plan. "So when the DNA test shows Michael isn't the father, we'll say you knew all along," she said, smiling. "That you used a sperm donor because of his fertility issues, but he was too proud to admit it." "Exactly," I said. "And I have all the medical records proving his infertility diagnosis." "But Sarah, that means you won't get child support." I shook my head. "Not quite. Remember, we're married. Under Colorado law, if a child is born during the marriage, the husband is automatically the legal father, regardless of biology. He'd have to prove he didn't know about the donor." "And the evidence shows otherwise," Rebecca finished. "Medical records, the doctor's recommendation to use a donor. Brilliant." But my revenge didn't stop there. I also hired a private investigator to track Michael. Turns out, his affair with the redhead Tiffany had been going on for 8 months. I had photos, phone records, receipts from restaurants and hotels. More than that, I learned Michael was spending our joint savings on his mistress. Expensive gifts, trips, even renting her an apartment. All with family money he was funneling into his affair. The court date arrived in May. The courtroom was packed. News of a prominent sales manager accusing his nurse wife of cheating and denying paternity had spread across Denver. Michael loved the spotlight, and he got it. He sat at his table with his lawyer, smirking. Next to him sat Tiffany. Yes, he was brazen enough to bring her to court. She looked at me with barely concealed contempt. Judge Margaret Hunter, a stern woman in her 50s, called the court to order. "We're here to hear the divorce case between Michael and Sarah Johnson. Mr. Black, you may begin." Michael's lawyer stood, buttoning his jacket. "Your Honor, my client is the victim of the most heinous betrayal. His wife cheated on him and is now trying to force him to raise another man's child." He painted a picture of a betrayed husband and a conniving wife, showed photos of Emma, emphasizing that she clearly doesn't look like her father, called witnesses who testified that Emma doesn't look like Michael's daughter should. My client demands a DNA test to prove this child isn't his, Black concluded. And when the truth comes out, he shouldn't have to pay a cent in alimony for another man's child. The courtroom fell silent. All eyes were on me. Michael stared at me, triumphant. My turn. Rebecca stood slowly, like a predator preparing to strike. Your Honor, my client agrees to the DNA test. In fact, she insists on it. A murmur of surprise rippled through the room. Michael frowned. He hadn't expected me to agree so easily. But first, Rebecca continued, we'd like to present some evidence. She approached the table and picked up a thick folder. Your Honor, these are Mr. Johnson's medical records from Denver Reproductive Clinic. They clearly show he was diagnosed with male infertility due to an extremely low sperm count. Michael paled. That's not true. The records are dated 5 years ago. Rebecca continued calmly. The doctor recommended the couple use a sperm donor, which they did. She handed the documents to the judge. Here's the consent form for the procedure, signed by both parties. Now all eyes were on Michael. His face was red with anger and embarrassment. It's forged, he shouted. I never signed that. Your Honor, Rebecca said, we have a video of the consultation with the doctor where Mr. Johnson discusses the donor procedure. She played a screen, and the courtroom watched a 5-year-old recording of Michael and me in the doctor's office. It was clear as day, Michael agreeing to the use of a sperm donor. I don't remember that, he mumbled, his voice weak. Perhaps this will jog your memory, Rebecca said, playing another recording. This time, the courtroom heard Michael's voice from just months ago. I'll be free soon. Once I prove the kid isn't mine, I can leave her without paying alimony. The reaction was immediate. Spectators whispered loudly. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Johnson, she said coldly, are you claiming you forgot you agreed to a sperm donor? Michael opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. But we have more evidence, Rebecca continued. A private investigator tracked Mr. Johnson over the past 3 months. She began displaying photos of Michael with Tiffany, at restaurants, in hotels, on a beach in California, a trip he'd claimed was for work. Here are bank statements showing Mr. Johnson spent over $50,000 of family money on his mistress, Rebecca said. Rented her an apartment, bought expensive gifts, took her on vacations. Tiffany shrank in her seat. Michael looked like he wanted to disappear. But the most interesting part, Rebecca continued, is what happened yesterday. She turned to the courtroom. Mr. Johnson, do you recall what you said to Ms. Tiffany Brown yesterday at the Starbucks on 16th Street? Michael was silent. Let me refresh your memory. Rebecca played another recording. Michael's voice was unmistakable. Yeah, I know Emma's from a donor, but if I can convince the court Sarah cheated, I'll get a divorce without alimony. She's too stupid to figure out I'm playing her. The courtroom erupted. People jumped from their seats, shouting in outrage. The judge banged her gavel, demanding order. Michael sat, stunned. His plan had collapsed in front of his eyes. Mr. Johnson, the judge said once order was restored, do you confirm you knew about the sperm donor? Yes, he whispered. And yet you tried to deceive this court by claiming your wife cheated? Answer the question. Yes. The judge shook her head in disgust. Mr. Johnson, not only did you attempt to deceive this court, but you publicly humiliated the mother of your child. Furthermore, you squandered family money on an extramarital affair. She glanced at her notes. Given the circumstances, the court rules as follows. The divorce is granted. Full custody of the child is awarded to Mrs. Johnson. Michael's head snapped up. But, Your Honor, the child isn't— Mr. Johnson, the judge interrupted. Under Colorado law, children born during a marriage are the legal children of both spouses. You knew about the sperm donor and consented to it. Emma Johnson is your legal child. Furthermore, she continued, given your attempt to deceive the court and your misuse of family funds, you will pay child support of $2,000 per month until she reaches adulthood. As for the division of assets, the judge flipped through pages. The house and all family savings are awarded to Mrs. Johnson as compensation for the misused funds. Michael went pale. That's not fair. Fair, the judge repeated. Mr. Johnson, you tried to deprive your child of financial support based on a lie. You cheated on your wife, spent family money on a mistress, and attempted to deceive this court. If this were a criminal case, you'd be facing fraud charges. She banged her gavel. Case closed. The courtroom began to clear. Michael sat in shock, his lawyer whispering angrily in his ear. Tiffany had already vanished. Apparently, the prospect of dating a man with no money didn't appeal to her. I approached Michael. He looked up at me, eyes full of hatred. You planned this, he whispered. Me? I said innocently. I just agreed to the DNA test you wanted. Not my fault you forgot you consented to a donor. You knew I forgot! Michael, I said, leaning closer. I'm a nurse. I see people forget critical medical procedures all the time due to stress or time, but records don't lie. I straightened. By the way, that apartment you rented for Tiffany, the landlord said she moved out this morning. Guess she's not interested in a man who can't pay her rent. His face grew even paler. See you in 2 weeks, I said, heading for the exit. Don't forget the first alimony payment. 3 months later, I sat in our, now my, house, playing with Emma in the garden. She laughed, chasing butterflies, blissfully unaware of the courtroom drama. Michael paid child support on time. He tried appealing the ruling, but his new lawyer, Richard Black, dropped the case after such a public failure, told him he had no chance. I heard he's renting a small apartment across town. His reputation in the business world took a hit after the trial. Who wants to deal with a man who tried to deceive a court? He lost several major clients. Tiffany, as I predicted, vanished once the money dried up. I heard she's dating another man now, a car dealership chain owner. As for me, I got a promotion at the hospital. The administration was impressed with how I handled a personal crisis without letting it affect my work. I also started dating Dr. David Clark, Emma's biological father. He's always been a kind man, and now that the truth is out, we can build a relationship openly. Emma adores David. She doesn't understand the complexities, but she knows he's Uncle David, who brings her books and plays with her at the park. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if I hadn't overheard Michael at that grocery store. He would have abandoned us, ruined my reputation, and left us without support. But his own greed and arrogance were his downfall. You see, Michael always underestimated me. To him, I was just a nurse, a simple woman who couldn't outsmart a successful sales manager. He thought he could manipulate me, use my love for him and our daughter against us. But he forgot one crucial thing. Nurses are used to working under pressure. We make quick decisions in crises. We know how to read people, notice details, and plan several steps ahead. And most importantly, we know how to keep records. Every phone call, every meeting, every document was recorded and saved. When Michael decided to play his game, he didn't know he was up against a professional. Now, as I watch Emma play in the garden, I know she's safe. She has a mom who'll fight for her. She has a biological father who wants to be part of her life. And she has financial security for her future. As for Michael, he got exactly what he deserved. He wanted to publicly humiliate me, call me a cheating wife, and deprive his daughter of support. Instead, he humiliated himself, lost his home, his money, and his reputation. Justice prevailed, and sometimes it tastes like sweet revenge. But the best part of this story, it's not over. Emma's growing up happy and healthy. I'm building a new life with a man who truly loves me. And every month, when Michael's alimony check arrives, I put it into Emma's college fund. Who knows? Maybe she'll become a lawyer like Rebecca Stone, or a doctor like David, or even a nurse like me. The important thing is that she'll know this. Never let anyone underestimate you. Sometimes the quietest woman in the room is the most dangerous. And if someone tries to use a lie against you, make sure you have the truth in your back pocket. Truth, backed by records. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.